Jesus had been teaching crowds of people by the Sea of Galilee. It was getting late, so he told his disciples to get into the boat and go to the other side of the sea. Jesus sent the crowds away and went up on the mountain to pray by himself. That evening, the boat was far from the shore. The wind blew and the waves tossed the boat around. Jesus was still on the mountain alone. Around 3 a.m, Jesus came toward his disciples walking on the sea. When the disciples saw Jesus, they were terrified. "It's a ghost!" they cried. Right away, Jesus spoke to them. "Have courage, it's me. Do not be afraid." Peter answered, "Lord, if it really is you, tell me to come to you on the water." So Jesus said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water toward Jesus. But when Peter saw how strongly the wind was blowing, he was afraid. Peter began to sink. "Lord, save me!" he cried. Jesus reached out his hand and grabbed Peter. Jesus said, "You have little faith. Why do you doubt?" They got into the boat and the wind stopped. Then everyone in the boat worshiped Jesus and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Jesus proved that he can be trusted. His miracles, teaching, death, and resurrection showed that he is who he says he is. Only Jesus can save us when we look to him in faith.
Hi there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Julia from East Orange, New Jersey asks,
How can I have a stronger faith?
Oh, Julia, that is a question we all need to keep asking ourselves. Great question. So here's the thing. We know that faith needs to be grown. It's kind of like a muscle. Some people have called it a muscle that you have to keep exercising and stretching it so it grows and becomes stronger. And so how do we do that? Well, there are a few ways that we can do that. The first one I can think of is by spending more time in the Bible. The more we read the Bible, the more we study it, the more we understand who God is, the way he works, the greater confidence we have in him. We know how we're to live. And so reading the Bible is perhaps one of the greatest ways you can grow in your faith. Other ways are prayer, talking with God, asking him to grow you, asking him to help you learn and to live on faith. Another way is by worshiping, being part of a church. This is why it's so important that we're part of a family of faith and we gather regularly and worship together and study together and talk through these things, learn from one another. But all these things lead us to this one idea that I think is really important you hear. You have to stretch your faith. You have to put yourself in positions that are uncomfortable at times to grow in that faith. Think again about muscles. Think about, lifting weights. Lifting weights is not easy. You have to strain and stretch yourself and you add more weight and there are times you're like, I don't know if I can do this, but you keep pushing. And it's through that exertion that your muscles grow stronger. If you never put weights on the barbell and just lifted an empty barbell, you're not gonna really gain muscle. So it's the same thing with our faith. If we're never stretching ourselves, if we're never stepping into those uncomfortable areas of life, if we're never sitting down with that person in the cafeteria and praying that God opens a conversation to talk about your faith with him or her, then you're not gonna grow as much. It's through those uncomfortable, stretching moments that we really grow. So I wanna encourage you to do that. Share your faith with other people. Go on mission trips. Live for Christ day by day, and you will see your faith grow by leaps and bounds, I believe, when you do that. So I hope that has been helpful, and again, that's something that we all need to be doing. So question back for you, who or what are you looking to be secure? Where is your faith found?
Whether cruising down highways in some of the world's largest cities or bumping along dirt roads to get to hard-to-reach villages, a missionary's daily commute can look very different from typical transportation in America. Here are some of the ways missionaries get around the world. Boats. In the Amazon jungle, dugout canoes facilitate trade and maintain communication between villages and cities. One journey can last 3 days or 3 weeks. Nevertheless, it is the only mode of transportation to further the gospel, said a missionary in Brazil. Metros. Light rail is commonplace in commutes for missionaries in the world's megacities. Metros are usually crowded, so riding the metro can be an exercise in letting go of personal space. Trains. In some locations, people spend days on the train to reach their destination. As missionaries roll across the countryside, children play with newfound friends, people swap stories, and the conductor sells ice cream. In India, the railroad is one of the country's most efficient modes of transportation. Cars. Cars are popular among the middle and upper class in South Asia, but there are a few major differences when driving a car in these countries. Missionaries must master the skill of driving on the left side of the road. Some roads are full of ruts and potholes. During the rainy season, some villages are completely inaccessible for months at a time without a four-wheel drive vehicle, said a missionary in Southeast Asia. Buses. Until recently, owning a car was too expensive for most East Asians. For the lower and middle classes, buses are affordable and accessible. In Kenya, matatus are brightly colored buses or vans operated by private owners. These vehicles are decorated with bright colors and unique decorations to get the attention of potential customers. Trucks. Trucks are a common sight in sub-Saharan and North Africa. Some missionaries serve where seatbelts are only a suggestion, and riding in the back of a truck with 14 of your closest friends is an acceptable mode of transportation. Motorbikes. Motorbikes are a useful and inexpensive means of transportation. According to a worker in South Asia, motorbike drivers go anywhere on the road they want, sidewalks, ditches, and in between cars. Another worker in Southeast Asia confessed, "Seeing multiple people on a scooter at once always makes me smile." Bicycles. Missionaries often have the opportunity to learn to balance groceries and sometimes kids as they ride through some of the biggest biking cities in the world. Missionaries in Europe say that as a result of biking, they've had conversations with other cyclists, and there has almost always been a chance to talk about Jesus. Animals. Some missionaries work with people who use more lively forms of transport, like donkeys or camels. Camels were created to survive with little water and food, making them a great choice in rugged, dry terrain, even if they do spit sometimes. Donkey carts can still be seen in many sub-Saharan African, Central Asian, and European villages. No matter the transportation, missionaries all over the world pray that God will place people in the seat next to them who need to hear about Jesus.